Hari Om, and the next mantra will be 14B and 15, origin of the Nadis. And in my previous series, when we read Prana and Pranayama book, we absolutely touch very in detail about Nadis, and I talked to you about some practices, very important feels through the day, or what you do, how it's manifests itself, what is it, how can you tap to this, so very practical types of conversations. Although read the book, but I always bring my personal experience, and I encourage you to check it out. And it doesn't matter if you already heard about this before, it's always nice to listen somebody talking about some subjects from different perspective, and it will, first of all, can come to your mind differently in different levels. So if you rewatch particular videos or read some text many times, it will constantly come to you in different ways. Depends what's happening with you, what is your level, where you are, what your experiences. Also, everybody have different way to express the experience, so you might pick up something better than from others. So listen about other people talking about Nadis and their experience with yoga and this kind of stuff. It can give you some motivation to get into your experience. And of course, your personal experience will be totally different. So let's look at the Nadis. First, I will read the Sanskrit. Ordavam medrada do nambe kandayonih khagandavat tatra nadyan samutpanach sahasranih dvis pathatih teshu nadi sahasreshu dvisaptatiro dadhrita. Of course, this is my reading the English letters of the Sanskrit, and totally probably not correct, but it's sometimes just interesting to listen. From the mandra located above the base of the womb and below the navel, which is the origin point of the Nadis, and it's shaped like an egg, 72 southern energy channels emanate. From amongst these thousands of channels, 72 are considered to be principal. So that's all the mantra, and there's a very nice commentary about this as well. The Nadis, it's just the channels that all around our body that connect, just the energy flows, yeah? So if you're thinking about, I don't know, cyclone in climatology, and there's a big one shape, yeah, it's like a tunnel, yeah? But at the same time, if you consider each part, you have a lot of separate air masses with different properties that move in different directions, all the same direction, different strengths, different properties, different density. So that's what's happened in our energy body. So it's not just these chakras like a flower. Yes, what is the chakra? Chakra is intersection of many channels where they kind of, like on a highway, they come to the lightning and they join and separate. That's what the chakras are. So it's like concentration, highway intersections of the channels within the body. And all these channels, they're kind of like within the physical, but also outside of our actual physical materialistic body. And they could be stronger, they could be diminished, they could be, some channels could be dry and not working anymore. Some channels could be pumping. Some channels could be like a blockage concentration somewhere. And that's what we say, like some people say, like activation of the chakra, not activated chakra. So it's basically not free flow of the energy throughout all the channels, all the energy. And through the yoga practice, you clean those channels, open them up and make them stronger, so the current of the energy runs stronger. It's like you exercise your muscles on the body. When you exercise your energy channels, and you will more energy flow through the chakras, you get to tune it, and the changes happening in your life, not just on the physical level, but on all levels. Just try it for yourself. So let's read the commentary. Prana is the etheric or vital force which pervades the entire cosmos, and it's responsible for all manifest existence. We talk about prana a lot in my previous series of Prana Pranayama. Prana is something that's not been created or been destroyed. It's something that exists in the whole world. It's the essence of the world, like a breath of the world. It comprises all beings, whether inanimate, and nothing can live or exist without it. Through closely related to the air we breathe, it is not the same. It's not the same, but analogy. Prana is subtler than the air and can be defined as an energy force that is the substream of every created object in the universe. In a living being, this force is responsible for all life and movement, whether physical, mental, psychic, or spiritual. In human beings, this life force is said to be generated by the Kundalini Shakti, which at humanity presents level of evolution is lying dormant at Muladhara chakra, and that's what we talk about Muladhara, how it's dormant there, and how we, through the yoga practice, trying to waken up. And majority of people on this planet, unfortunately, although it's our point of existence as a human, at this whatever incarnation, if you believe in it, or this life, it's to waken up your Kundalini, rise it up all the way through and evolved. Yeah. Otherwise, you come back and come back and come back to do it all over again. But unfortunately, majority of people don't even ask the question, what's the point of my existence? Rather than sleep, eat, work, have kids. Yeah. Primitive kind of animal type of basic parts of our life. To be happy. What does it mean to be happy? And when you start realizing the Kundalini awakening or awakening of my higher self, that's the point of my existence. That's why I come here. That's when you truly become happy. At the subtle level, this pranic force is stored and transmitted to the related organs and parts of the body and brain by the chakras or psychic energy centers, which act as a trigger point here. These highways, here, trigger points. This force is transmitted from the chakras through energy channels, which are called Nadis. That's what I explained. The word Nadi is derived from the Sanskrit root nad, which literally means to flow. So Nadis are energy currents or flow. And I always think about ocean currents or atmospheric currents. Yeah? I come from the geography, geology background, so for me it's more natural to think about this like that. In recent times, the word Nadi has been translated as nerve. But some people trying to put chakras as because they're located kind of on the spine, they're located to the nerve knots, and the nadis is the nerves, yeah. Although nerves are said to be the closest physical correlate, nadis are not nerves, for they are composed of subtle stuff. Nadis are not located in the physical body, they form the infrastructure of the vital or pranic body, which gives life, movement, and energy to the physical body. So when I talk about koshas in my previous video, so the energy body, prana body is one above the physical. So if you visualize, for example, matryoshki, like a Russian doll, so you have a bigger doll, within you have smaller doll, smaller doll, smaller doll, smaller doll. This is our koshas, our bodies. And the gross, the most simpler one, will be the physical, the food body, and the others, next the pranic body, and the next you have your mental body, and so on. 5 or 7, whatever bodies you can count. It depends on your school and stuff and how you tune to this. The one body that above, so the pranic body kind of above your physical body, more subtle. That's the one that you wanna, if you wanna change your physical body, you have to do it through your subtle body, through the prana body. If you want to change the prana body, you have to work with your mental or emotional or whatever spiritual body. So it's kind of like next level, yeah? I talk about this quite in detail, so I'm very briefly mention this. The location of the point for which the nadis emanate is described as being below the navel and above the kandayoni. So it's a womb for the women, very easy visualize. So it's this point in between. So the Madra is located between Manipura and Muladhara chakras, so somewhere there. And that's where primary force, primary energy, that's where we store, get the energy from. And in Tantric, I know we use the both kidneys as well as the both ovaries for women, the places where you're actually like a source seed of your prana. It could be attributed to Dhara, that's energy that's come from all your ancestors and where you get your energy from. And I talk about this in the video when I talk about how to put your Hara back, when we talk about Dhara Nakasha. The word yoni means womb, and it's symbolically depicted as a red inverted triangle. It is the seat of Kundalini Shakti, the latent spiritual force responsible for all manifestation and transformation. So a lot of more very detailed descriptions here for you, maybe too much detail, but the moment you start practices, you constantly come back to this and it will become you will become accustomed, you will feel it, you will know it. In the seat of Kundalini Shakti, the latent spiritual force responsible for all manifestation and transformation. The word Kanda means root or base, and here it signifies the root plexus or Muladhara chakra, above which the nadi emanate in the psychic body. The Madra is situated just above the triangle or yoni at the opening of Sushumna nadi, the path of energy flowing through the chakras or psychic centers, which represents the entire spectrum of human personality. So Sushumna is this like a column which all the 7 main chakras sits, and it's more or less located along your spinal column. The nadis, or subtle channels of vital force, flow alongside the central canal of the spinal column and branch out at different psychic centers to vitalize different parts of the body. Some nadis also travel downward for maintenance of the lower extremities. Yes, so they like, if you visualize plant or tree, that's what we have. So we have main trunk, a lot of branches. Each branch separates even for more channels, and some of them connected. It is stated in many of the ancient texts, and also here in the mantra, that there are 72,000 nadis in the pranic body, 72,000 with these channels within. And if you are a very experienced practitioner, you might even be able not just feel 72,000, but also trying to gain a control. But in this existence, in this life, it'll be great if you just can figure out the main channels. 3 main nadis, 7 main chakras. The moment you master those other ones, you will start feeling them too. A person who has developed pranic psychic vision perceives these channels as a current of light. And that's all my practices. I always talk about this, and that's how I work with my pranic body during the yoga practice. Visualize it. You can even change it, the properties of these pranic forces, change the temperature, the light, the energy, what does it bring, and use it for yourself for healing properties, or to bring the energy or awaken something, or opposite cool down. Yeah? Out of the 72,000 nadis which flow throughout the pranic body, only 72 are considered to be important. The rest are subsidiary, so the rest are kind of like connected to others, or they might have particular forces, but I do invite you to get control of all the 72, but just start feeling the main one. And 3 first one will start, and it's the next mantra. It's the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. And there's a very simple first practice you do in yoga. They are directed to start feeling those. Good luck with your practice. Hari Om. Hari Om, and next mantra we continue today from our Yoga Chudamani Upanishad will be the mantra 16 and 17, 10 major nadis. So it's quite a small mantra. It's just stated about nadis, what they are. It's always interesting to look at the comments, and we talk about the nadis in very detail in Prana Pranayama when I read Prana Pranayama book. Sanskrit is Pradhana Pranavahinyo Huyatsasu Dasha Smirtach Ida Cha Pingala Chaiva Sushumna Cha Tritiyaga Gandhahare Hashtijiva Cha Pusha Chaiva Yashashvini Alambusa Kuhosh Chaiva Shankni Dashami Smirta. So it's basically listening, you could hear the names of the nadi channels. Translation will be again among these 72. The main principal nadis for the flow of prana are 10. These are known as Ida Pingala and the third Sushumna. I'll probably will say Sushumna, then Ida Pingala, Sushumna, one of the main one. Gandhari, Hastijiva, Pusha, Yashashvini, Alambuza, Kuhu, and the 10th Shankini. So they have been said. Basically, just naming them. In the commentary, not such a big one. Some texts such as Shandilya Upanishad, Geranda Samhita, or Hatha Yoga Pradipika, or Yoga Sutras describe 14 major nadis and others 10. Yeah? The number depends on individual observations and how the psychic body is perceived. This text describes 10 main nadis mentioned above. Out of these, the first 3, Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, are the most important, and the others are of secondary importance. The location of the 10 nadis is described in the following mantra. So we're going to continue go through following mantra. We have location of the major nadis, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, how they're located and what they do. Then continue with pranic body and prana vayus. And repeating again in my previous series, What is Yoga and Prana Pranayama. We talk about this in very detail, about what is the prana, how does it move, why it moves, why this all happening with us. If you were like me, grown up in traditional modern society, you will never heard about that. In school, you've been told about, very in detail, about your physical body, blood vessels, skin, bones. Nobody talk about anything like that. Maybe if you study some psychology, psychiatry or something like that, you kind of talk about some aspects of energies or something like that, but no. So the yoga science, it's the only place where we talk about this. And some in traditional medicine talk about this, as I know, for example, acupuncture, the chi energy, chi is the prana basically, and they have meridians, the channels where the pranas worked, and they basically more or less one-to-one correlates with yoga science, what we know about this. So you can look into that, but I will encourage you first to learn it through your practice of yoga, feel it and understand it, and then try Tai Chi. I think they do the same, Chinese traditional martial arts and medicine, they work with pranic body. That's how you're supposed to work. You're supposed to work with your pranic body to heal your physical body, sometimes emotional body to feel the pranic, and then you through that you feel you. Because all the illnesses, disease, body, lose of energy, too much energy. Some people burn themselves through the life. Some people opposite, they stagnate. Depressions, anger, worries, all these things, they not come from our physical being. It might, some of these things can impose it, but most of it's in the mind, in our spirit, in our heart, and in our energy. Think about these things like that, not as simple as you've been talked about. Modern science constantly confirming all the yogic science aspects. I constantly follow what's happening in the physics world and quantum world and astronomy. It's constant confirmation, and how they say, we discovered this, and apparently this is not as was. And we were thinking in science before about the quantum world, about the energies, about dark matter, all these things. And you're like, hello, did you read the ancient yogic text? It's already been described there. We know how the universe works. We know how the body works. The body is not just this physical. We know also things about after this experience and all this kind of stuff through yogic text. So it's nice that people start realizing it on a physical level. They a little bit kicking against the wall because they discover something new and they're realizing that we have to rewrite what we already know, or there's much more unknown where this comes from. But if you will holistically again look into the modern physical existence through the prism of knowing the yogic science, it will make much more sense. It will be much more easier for you to understand how these things work. Let's look at different nadis in future videos. Hari Om. Hari Om. Next mantra will be 18, 19, and 20, location of the major nadis. In the Sanskrit it says, Eta nadi maha chakram gnatavyam yogi pi sada ida vame shitaba je takshine pingala sthita Sushumna madhyadeshe tu gandhari vama chakshushi dakshine hasti jva chapusha karne tu dakshine yashaswini vama karne chanane chapya lambusa kuhucha lingadeshe tu mulashtane tu shanknine. Translation will be is the yogis should always be aware of the great nadi complex Ida is on the left side, Pingala on the right side. Sushumna is in the middle. Gandhari goes to the left eye and Hastishva to the right eye. Pusha goes to the right ear and Yashaswini to the left ear. Alambusa goes to the face region. Kuhu goes to the genitals and Shankini to the perineal. And there's a commentary for that as well. So this description in this mantra location imaginary, so just listed them, but behind there's all the meaning and all the ways you can engage it, use it, and why we have them. So that's simple mantra, yet so powerful and important. And before, I said many times how many different nadis apart from Sushumna we have, and Ida Pingala, 3 main ones. In my previous series on pranayama book, talk about the main ones. It's very kind of basics information, so if you're not familiar, here it's a little bit more in detail. There's 72,000 nadi channels, passages of this energy in our body, which kind of main ones plus numerous little ones, and you as a practitioner learning to feel them and control them are the ultimate goal. Let's read the commentary. An important aim of yoga is to develop awareness and inner vision of the pranas and nadis. That's what I just said. Yeah, Ida and Pingala are the 2 nadis which are responsible for mental and vital energy in the body and brain. They traverse the spinal cord alternatively, originated from the left and the right of the Muladhara, just below the Medra. We talked about Medra in previous video, and link all the chakras together. Sushumna, which is a pathway of the ascent of Kundalini, emerges from the center of Muladhara and goes straight up through the psychic centers, piercing each one in turn. And we often describe it in practices. It's like the train going through each station, yeah, from the main central station to the final, yeah, your destination. And that's your Kundalini coming from Muladhara to Svatistan, to Mula, to Manipura, to Anahata, to Vishuddhi, Ajna, and beyond. It is said that as long as the Sushumna remains in a dormant state, the human function at the level of duality through the activity of Chitta Shakti and Prana Shakti, which flows transversally through the 2 major channels of Ida and Pingala. It is only when the Kundalini or Atma Shakti awakens the flow through the Sushumna Nadi that the veil of duality is removed and one perceives the dimension of cosmic unity. A little point about here. So we have these Shaktis come from Muladhara realm, Svatisthana 1, and from the beyond. And the duality, these 2 channels, Ida Pingala, they're going like that. They're going through each of the chakra crossing till they reach Muladhara. And that's how we operate every day's activity. And again, I talk about this. So most of the time when we practice Nadi Shodhana, we're trying to balance these 2 nadis and bring them to the middle, to the state when their energy flows through the middle, Sushumna. The awakening of Kundalini, that's how it does happen, and we do it during our Kriya practices. We balancing those out. So you do some pranayama work before you do Kriya, but the moment you start doing Kriyas, it's kind of more directly bringing those together. We trying to pierce through Kundalini, through the Sushumna, so the Kundalini have freedom to come up, all the way up. So duality exists before you reach this, and the moment you awaken it, it starts rising up. And specifically when it's past Manipura, we talk about this in Manipura video, the point of no return, you are awakened, and it's yearning and it's wishing to reach up. And that's when it meets the high consciousness and your personal Jivatma, or yourself in terms of the ego, whatever you are right now. Before it starts, you live in this world of duality. Everything have other side of the coin, no matter the good or bad. And there's always something you're not happy about, because if you have 2 sides of the coins, there's always will be other opposite side which you will reach or you will wish for. And the moment you surpass it, the moment your Kundalini and the Shaktis meet, all this become not important, and you'll be happy in every moment, wherever you are, whatever happens right now. For the last nadi, last channels, the remaining 7 of the major nadis are the channels of prana, which link the psychic centers with their related sensory organs. The cognition of the senses is dependent on the flow of prana in these organs. If the quantum of prana is less than the power of the senses is diminished, and if the quantum of prana is more, then the senses are very sharp. They're called quanta of prana and energy charge you have. And people described chakras and the channels like a water channels in your irrigation system, for example. So some of those channels get, if you don't have any prana going through, you don't activate and use them, yeah, like muscles. The muscles become weak, and then eventually they kind of disappears, yeah. Atrophy, we call it atrophy of the muscles. Similar with the energy channels, if you don't use it, if you don't practice, you don't open up by pranayama practices, asanas, everyday's activities, and the things you do, your action, your karma, they will kind of die out. And when it's happening on your energy level, on your prana body, in your prana body, you have I have more energy flowing that direction than this direction, this side, for example, or these chakras. There's not enough energy, and they kind of diminished, and you have a dissipation of the energy, not enough energy there. And as a result, my physical body starts showing signs like disease or illnesses. And majority of illnesses, chronic illnesses, they related to that. There could be disease like viruses, what you get, or something like physical happened to you. So you went to the, I don't know, like car crash or something, and something happened, or you cut off your finger. So, okay, that's not, it's just one action happened. In other sense, these things happened, those diseases which come kind of like, sounds like they come from nothing, or your everyday's activity, they come from this diminished energy. So just practicing pranayama sometimes can just expand your channels, bring the energy to all vital energy, nadis. And you can, by energizing your prana body, healing your physical body. I think I did talk about this before, but it's always important to stress it. And that's why they say this quantum of prana, quantum like level, how much prana energy you have. The senses all could be diminished, so you become like a blunt to particular senses, or they can become sharpened. And that's why when we start activating, opening the chakras, especially higher levels, we start getting these jewels or the siddhis, abilities. But they're not something external, supernatural. This is something that we all experience, but we're losing it, especially when we're children. People are forgetting how much senses, abilities they have when they were kids, most of us. And then they kind of like, we're growing up, especially in teenager years, we become dumb by the hormonal changes in the body, and we stop feeling the sensitivity, and then we start getting bodies getting bigger, doesn't grow anymore, and we start doing whatever repetitive activities, type of food we eat, very important. We become dull and numb to this extra senses, abilities, superpowers you might say, but it's not actually superpowers. It's something that all people have within. They just forget about it, yeah, become dull. A relatively large proportion of prana is required to empower the senses and connect the input to the brain. When prana flows to the eyes through Gandhari and Hashtajiva nadis, the result is vision, perception of shape, form, and color. Pusha and Yashaswini control the ears and perception of sound. Kuhu and Shankini channels direct the activities of procreation, egg exertion. So that's just explaining these channels, how they become diminished, and that's what's happened. You become dull to this, and then the moment you start activating it, it's just all sharpen up and come to you. In terms of the vision, some people are very visual. Some people in practice of yoga, you just from first time tell them visualize these lotus or something, and they have amazing like a 3D images, pictures, sounds, or even smells. And for some people it's basically impossible. When I say, for example, visualize yourself or see some particular symbol, sometimes people have to mentally repeat it to themselves because they cannot actually visualize it. This is something about your channels which blocked, sensory is dull. And the moment you start practice yoga, simple asanas, pranayamas, most of them directed to balance you out in opening up. So it's not so much important what you practice is. Sometimes will be you have an easy passage, you go faster to your progress, or you just take longer route. We're just kind of stuck. Depends what type of yoga practice, who's your teacher, and how much is your understanding. But most of practices we do, they They will help you to open up and start opening up these siddhis abilities. But it's not something to be proud of if you have some particular ability, something you have from your childhood. Some people have colorful dreams, some people don't, all this kind of stuff. Or they can see what's happening in the future, or they have intuition, they're very open. Some people can see things without looking, through the dark and this kind of stuff. But the moment you start getting these abilities, and if you are a yoga practitioner, it's not something you're gonna use or tell to people that you have these abilities. It's kind of like an unspoken, not a rule, but unspoken politeness. The moment you surpass it, you're not using it for your practice, but you're not using it for achieving something in your life, because you already surpass it. And these abilities usually will not given to you if you're not on that level, if it makes sense. A little bit diverted from the topic, but nevertheless, I found it very fascinating. Hari Om. Hari Om, let's look at the next mantra, and it's mantra 21, 22a, Ida Pingala and Sushumna. And absolutely repeating myself, I have in Prana Pranayama more detail, I'll dive and look in it. So here there will be this mantra, Sanskrit translation and commentary provided in this book in respective of Yoga Chudamani Upanishad. However, check out my other videos for these topics, and specifically I also do specific practices for this. Ida Pingala and Sushumna. Evam dvara samashrita tishtante nadyach kramat. Ida Pingala Sushumnach prana marjecha samshitan. Satatam prana vahinyach somasoryagni devatach. Apologize for those who are reading Sanskrit. I do not. I'm reading the transliteration in English here, so it's probably not correct. So translation, that these nadis are dependent and located systematically in the various passages of the body. Ida Pingala and Sushumna are the paths of prana located in Soma, moon, Surya, sun, and Agni, fire, devatas. Devatas here is illumined divinities, which continue to move the prana. So just indication about Ida Pingala and Sushumna, and there's also the picture of it. So from Muladhara till the Ajna, we have all these 6 main chakras, and Ida Pingala cross in each of the chakras. So they cross each other, come from Mula, then cross 4 times, and coming into the Ajna, this 2-petal representation of this chakra together. So let's read the commentary. Out of the 72 southern nadis, the 3 most important are Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. All the others are dependent upon them. Ida is the passive channel which is related with the moon or mental energy, so it is known as Chandra or Soma Nadi. And you know, we practice Chandra, Chandrasana, all these practices for the moon. The color of the Ida is blue, and it's negative or cooling current. In here, negative, it's not in terms of negative bad, it's the negative, it's as the opposite of the positive. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's the positive, and -1, -2, -3, it's the negative for that. Yep. Pingala is the active channel, which is related with the sun or vital energy, so it's known as a Surya Nadi, so have moon and the sun. And it's quite often represented on some scriptures or on some chakra symbology, moon and sun together, yin and yang, as well symbol, I think, represented a similar concept. It's this duality together, and we cannot have the one without the other, we cannot have warm without the cool, so that's the meaning of the duality, the basic meaning. The color of Pingala is red and it's a positive or heating current. It emerges from the left of Muladhara and Pingala from the right of Muladhara. They ascend the spinal pathway alternatively, crossing over each of the chakra points. So they're kind of switching. So as they say, either come from the left and then she goes to the right and then goes to the left again. So you can go through each of the chakra, visualizing where they are and then trying to feel it, and you will feel it with your practice eventually. Ida Pingala Nadis represent the dual or manifest forces of life. That's what I say. In yogic term, they are also known as the channels of the manas or chitta shakti, the mental or consciousness force, and prana shakti, the vital or physical force. When Ida and Pingala are purified, regulated, and balanced, that's what we do through the practices, Sushumna Nadi, which represents the spiritual, unmanifested, or unconscious forces, begin to flow. So your awakening basically happens the moment your Ida Pingala nice and balanced, and all these magical things start happening with you. Without you wanted it or not. Usually we do want this, it will happen to you. And sometimes it happens to the people or even children who not even practice yoga or not even aware of that. So there's cases of like that. And some people might consider this as some kind of life experiences, blessings, opposite, curses, diseases, mental disbalances. Sometimes, in the past especially, people end up in clinic facilities or being treated by the drugs or something if they had this happen to them. In the modern world, we're more aware of these things, we know about this, there's the teachers who can guide you, so it's kind of like a little bit better in this sense. And the society also more open to these type of things for people with abilities, intuitions, siddhis, and we can direct it into a good channel and harvest benefits from it rather than suffer. Yeah? So this mantra relates Sushumna with Agni Devata, who represents the fiery, luminous quality of the spiritual force, which this Nadi channels. Sushumna flows straight up through the center of the spinal cord from Muladhara to Sahasrara and is silvery in color. In yoga, Sushumna is known as Atma Shakti, the spiritual force. It is the channel through which the ascending Kundalini must pass at the time of spiritual awakening. Therefore, the preparatory practices of Kundalini yoga involve purification and regulation of the Nadis in general, Ida and Pingala in particular, for the purpose of opening Sushumna. And one of the simplest way, if you're not like even done Kriya Yoga yet or you want to do, it's a little bit tricky to find some correct Kriya teacher, Kriya Yoga, and there's some variations. I personally practice and follow the Swami Satyananda, the practices Kriya Yoga provided. He has a book specifically about it, but if you just follow the book, you could not fully do it because the last Kriyas are not given there. They're only going to get you passed from teacher to teacher. So if you really want to pursue that, you have to find somebody related to that lineage and those who can teach you the Kriya practice. The moment you master them, the full practice takes about 3-4 hours. Depends on your abilities. You can do like a shorter version, about an hour and a half. That's what I practice. We only have time 3-4 hours when we're not bound by work, family, or we don't sleep at night. So when I had that time, I can practice the full one. It's an amazing experience, but otherwise you can practice a little bit faster. But there's also things like Nadi Shodhana, for example, some asanas, very simple meditation. And in my chakra course, I have very good combination of, for each of the chakra and for these channels as well, practices for that. And just let me know if you're interested in particular pranayama practices to balance the Pingala and Sushumna. I was thinking to record specific course about that. Just send me a comment if you're interested in these kind of things. This Nadi must be flowing if there is to be success in meditation. If Pingala flows predominantly, the body will restless. If Indala flows predominantly, the mind will be restless. When Sushumna flows, the mind enters a state of spontaneous absorption, and Kundalini, the spiritual force, rises through the chakras. And that's what's happened usually. I don't know, my personal experience with meditations, and I think the meditation itself, whatever practice you do, become as a true meditation, so I can straight away dive into the state which I needed and overcome all this, as I say, it's physical restlessness or the mind restlessness, which first thing people happening. It's only come to me after I think I properly dive into Kriya Yoga practices. Before that, my meditation was sometimes happen, sometimes not, or the body or the state was like that. It was like this state of when you try to meditate, but you feel like you're fighting the or falling asleep, or opposite, or running. So these things. And again, I told you that this is either Pingala, yeah, fighting. And only after just the severe practices, severe intensive practices, regular practices with Kriya, then no matter where I am or what's happening, I can straight away dive into this meditation now. Even before, I have to have like a good yoga practice, good pranayama, and then I can maybe go into my successful meditation. I would think so. But now, after you do practice your kriyas, you kind of get accustomed to this, straight away dive into this, so you can do it anywhere, anytime, no matter what's happening, what you've been doing just before. So think about it if you really want to progress fast in your yoga practice. What are you interested, yeah? Let's see the last commentary. In the physiological terms, Ida and Pingala correspond to the two aspects of autonomic nervous system. Pingala corresponds to the sympathetic nervous system, which speed up the heart, dilate the blood vessels, increase the respiration rate, and intensify the efficiency of the senses, thus extroverting the mind. Ida corresponds to the parasympathetic nervous system, which directly opposes the sympathetic nerves by reducing the heartbeat, constricting the blood vessels, slowing the respiration, and relaxing the system, so that the mind and senses become relaxed and introverted. And you see here, like sometimes people think that all yoga practice should be directed to this Ida state, when you're all relaxed, introverted. But this is the state which brings you to the sleepy moment, and you just dropping away and can't focus, concentrated. Same with true excitement as well. So you have to be in the middle. So not that, in the middle. And that's why sometimes people practice quite, not aggressive, but quite powerful yoga practices. And they do same pranayamas, same, this holotropic breathing, I think it's something like that. And they practice this, for example, Ashtanga yoga. Well, Ashtanga yoga have a slowing down the end. I do like sometimes practice Ashtanga yoga, but it's kind of very physical aspects of that. But the balance has to be there, so you not there, not there, so you're in between, you are perfectly balanced, and only then the sharpness in your meditation will come, this one-pointed awareness. That's the trick. And I absolutely with you, I know how it feels. It's or you're too energized, or you're absolutely sleepy, and it's hard to bring yourself back. It's like you cannot, it's not meditation. It's kind of felt like a waste of your time on the mat. Yeah, I realized through my personal experience that only knowing this very specific guidance, and that's the school which I follow, which give me these abilities to, like, I follow this instruction and it gives me straight to the point. There's no waste of time, whatever you're on the mat. So I really excited about it and trying to promote it. And so many people I see who are meditating every day. They're so dedicated. It's amazing the willpower, dedication of these people. But when they do meditate, what's happening on the mat that time? Is it constantly this fight between sleep and meditate, or it's constant fight with the mind? And so many people come, I can't calm my mind. I have these thoughts. I cannot get rid of them. Do not get rid of them. You don't need to. You never will get rid of them. You know who doesn't have thoughts in your mind? The dead body. So as long as you're a live person, you have visions, ears, impressions, you're gonna have thoughts in your mind. That's the abilities, that's the it's like a computer. It's the point of the mind. So we cannot clear it. We can only see through, learn to surpass. When you have children, you learn this quite fast. This constant background noise, one child, many children. There'll be the moment when you kind of like, it's not like you're ignorant, but you don't hear it as the noise. And if you have to concentrate, you're gonna listen through. That's kind of similar. It's very rough example, but that's kind of the closest state, you can tap to. The flow of prana through Ida and Pingala is completely involuntarily and unconscious in most people. It only becomes conscious and subject to manipulation and control through systematic practice of Hatha and Kundalini yoga. Through these practices, the vital and mental forces are regulated and increased, which brings about eventually mastery over the body, mind, and opens the doors of the psychic and spiritual world. This phrase, paragraph is super amazing. This basically everything sum up that I said before. I hope you very good luck on your journey. And remember, it doesn't have to be hard, long way. Hari Om. Hari Om. Continue reading our Chudamani Upanishads. And we're in the mantra 22b, 23a, Pranavayus. First is Sanskrit. Prana apana samakya vyano danau cha vayavah nagah kurmata krikaro devadato danyanyah. In translation is, the vital airs are named prana, apana, samana, vyana, udana, and naga, kurma, krikara, devadatta, and dhananjaya. And the commentary are following. The pranavayus refer to the vital airs active in all beings, which are responsible for existence and life. Although the prana in the body is one force, it has traditionally been divided into 5 categories according to area and function, and they're collectively known as the Pancha 5 pranas: prana, apana, samana, udana, and vyana. There are also 5 upapranas or secondary pranas: naga, kurma, krikara, devadatta, and dhananjaya. The 5 pranas maintain the major body parts and functions, while the 5 upapranas are concerned with minor actions, so the supplementary, secondary ones. Not supplementary, but more secondary. Yeah? Vayus or vital airs flow through these 10 pranic fields. Vayus or vital airs flow through these 10 pranic fields. Each vayu is the movement associated with one pranic field and has the same name. For example, apana vayu is the movement within the apana energy field. The breathing process generates the vayu. By controlling the vayus, subtle manifestations of prana can be channeled. And that's very basics for everybody who study or practice yoga. And again, I repeat, in my prana pranayama, they have more detailed description, and we talk about this a lot there in my videos, which have been already published. The interesting points here encompasses translation, probably that the vayus refers to the vital air active in all beings, which are responsible for existence and life. And it's very cross-related to the prana, that is what is prana. And I really in detail dive into this in my previous series when we talk about what is yoga and prana, pranayama. But as it's stated there, nothing can exist without prana. So this breath of life, which we talk about, and it's kind of depicted in, I don't know, in the childhood, for example, cartoons that show like somebody touched somebody and they become alive, or something can become magically alive. So this like spirit quality which make stone alive, if we can, talk about this like that in this term. You can make a figure of the person from the stone, but it's never become alive, and then in some kind of movie or legends, for example, ancient Greek legends, you can touch them and they become a person. So that's what the actual meaning of the prana vayus, the prana vayus here. Vayus, it's more like a winds and more like a suburbs of your vayu within the city of your prana. When the channels nadis, it's more like a highways or the streets. And so we cannot differentiate the vayus from actual prana meaning. So it is the prana, but we just kind of just make this division. So this kind of prana here, which resides here, for example, flows more forward or up, responsible for one functions in your body, and there it's there. But again, we're not sure probably if we separate these vayus in a living person, it won't be the living person anymore. But we do know from experience of practicing yoga that if you shut down one of the vayus, you cannot shut it down fully unless you actually like kill or cut down this energy field. But you cannot just shut down it without removing everything, but you can very diminish it, and that's when the serious problem with the health can come to this person, or incompetence to use parts of the body or do some functions in the body. And that's when towards the elderly age people start more experience, because through the life they, for example, neglected one habits and encompasses other habits which not so positive for our Nadi channels. That's what I talked in the previous couple of videos. And eventually these areas become stagnant, not used, or opposite, overused, and the falling disease are coming. And very often people call those diseases or just the age disease, genetics, or it could be attributed to chronic disease. And but I don't consider this true. So whatever people approach me and they say they have this chronic disease, or they had it, so that's what's chronic. Or often you go to doctors, and if they don't have an answer for you, like you have this because you went there and you know pick up this virus, but you have this strange qualities of your body which kind of like coming back and go away, or maybe never go away, and they usually attributed it like you were born like that, or it's genetics, so you already had it before you were born. How can you say that? Yeah, like, okay, maybe I had some properties of my pranic body which I inherited from my previous reincarnation, and I come to this life. It's meaning you're admitting the reincarnation. But in a sense, they're just looking on your parents, and they assuming, oh, they now proven it genetically that this is your tendency. But as we know, everybody have all the combination of the genes, and they are repeating, and they are similar people or animals. So can you really pinpoint, you have these genes, so you're gonna become alcoholic, for example? No, that will be your tendency in your life. You're more susceptible to addictions because your pranic, energetic body. As I told you before, everything physical disease, it's already a reflection of falling apart on a higher levels, some blockages, not even falling apart, but like some overuse or underuse of particular channels or emotions which connected to your pranic body, and so on. So in the yoga science, all these things can be and also be healed very fast. Also could be considered to be together. All these things in the yogic science considered to be part of one, and you can of course treat and get rid of whatever chronic disease you have, or never get them. At the same time, our physical body, our activities in this life, or something we do with our body consistently, even the posture, the way you stand or sleep, or the time when you sleep or stand, it's all can affecting your pranic body, spiritual body, and so on. And what I find today, a lot of people have very major problem with losing interest to life as itself, or the happiness. They're going to become bored very fast, and it's probably more obvious with the younger generations. And of course, part of it's us older people who older generations who not sparking this interest in love to life in these younger generations. We have to show them this. And I was very lucky enough to have community, family, friends, teachers. I have all sorts of people I met in my life, but 1 on 100 who spark some interest or love for any particular knowledge, life, earth, science, art, spark this interest in me. And sometimes I keep going on something in one conversation from childhood. So it's very important, this communication with older generations. But if older generations too busy, or they themselves don't understand what's happening on the physical level, pranic body with them, of course the children will suffer, and younger generations find it. They more complain of this, like we're bored of everything. Everything is tasteless in terms of interest, or they give up everything too fast. They don't have this assertion and yearning for particular things. Or if they do have the way the society works or the way life works, it's discouraged too fast, or there's something else coming out. Partially is what we have today in the world is discourage this love and interest, spark of love and interest, like social media, availability of everything, everywhere and right now. But in the same time, also the disconnection with your physical and pranic body. In particular, this pranic body's values, understanding how does it work. So I hope you dive into the understanding of your values and realizing that not everything just works on a physical level. The physical body is just one part of it. It's like the top of your iceberg. When you have all majority of stuff actually under the water, you should realize that. Hari Om.